Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're dissecting the mechanics of true success, based on some genuinely fascinating breakdowns of human behavior. Look, we've all got those big goals, right? That novel we want to write, that business we're going to start, or maybe that language we keep needing to learn. But what actually separates the people who achieve them from the ones who, well, just talk about them? Let's dive right into our source material, because we are going to look exactly at what divides the dreamers from the doers, using the cold, hard reality of daily action.
Be honest, we've all caught ourselves saying it. One day, my life will change. One day, I'll finally take that project seriously. But what if your one day literally never arrives? The material we're analyzing today hits us with this really harsh truth right out of the gate. Waiting around for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, or some magical bolt of inspiration is a highly, highly dangerous trap. Days slip into months, months blur into years, and suddenly, you're just left with regret over a perfectly good life spent entirely in the waiting room. And that brings us to the core thesis of our explainer today. Success is not created by dreams alone. The world is absolutely full of people with brilliant ideas. Think about how many of us have had a $1 million app idea while just standing in the shower. But ideas are everywhere. Actually, scratch that, ideas are cheap. Execution is what's rare. Thinking, planning, wishing, imagining, none of the whole shebang equals actual progress until you turn off the water, step out of the shower, and sit down to write the code. Which leads us perfectly into section 1, the trap of dreaming. This is where we unpack that psychological illusion keeping so many of us stuck in neutral.
Seriously, why do we stay stuck in this dreaming phase? Psychologically speaking, it's because dreaming is incredibly comfortable. It's so exciting to talk about your goals, and hey, it requires absolutely zero effort. When you chat about your big plans, your brain actually gets this premature dopamine hit. It tricks you into feeling a sense of accomplishment before you've even lifted a finger. Doing, on the other hand, that requires effort. It requires discipline, focus, and sacrifice. Dreaming gives you that quick emotional reward without ever forcing you to face the harsh reality of actually doing the work. The source delivers this really punchy maxim: action creates progress, not endless thinking. Overplanning and perfectionism, they are so often just hidden forms of procrastination. If you're spending all your time trying to create the absolutely perfect color-coded spreadsheet or building the ultimate highly customized Notion template for your project, you're really just finding a super smart, productive-feeling way to avoid doing the actual hard work. So how do we escape this trap? We move right into section 2, small habits, big results. This is the pivot point where we bridge that massive gap between dreaming and doing. We kind of have this tendency to think success requires huge, dramatic, immediate action. But it really doesn't. It starts with a tiny, daily action. Maybe it's just reading 10 pages or practicing an instrument for 20 minutes. The source compares this whole process to planting a seed. You plant it, and for weeks, nothing seems to happen. But underneath the soil, this incredible, unseen internal growth is taking place. You don't see those roots expanding right away, but change is happening quietly. Eventually, those tiny habits break the surface, resulting in enormous long-term change. One workout, one productive hour, they might seem insignificant today, but they are the literal roots of a massive, visible transformation. Let's do the math for a second. 365. People totally underestimate small actions because the results feel so tiny in the moment, but time multiplies repeated effort. If you dedicate just one single hour a day to your goal, that is 365 hours of compounding growth over a year. To put that into perspective, 365 hours is the equivalent of working 9 full 40-hour work weeks focused entirely on your goal. No way, right? That is the massive, undeniable math of consistency. And there is a huge difference between consistency and intensity. Have you ever worked incredibly hard for 2 days straight, completely burned yourself out, and then did absolutely nothing for the next week? Yeah, that's intensity, and it creates completely unstable, erratic progress. Consistency is stable. It's about disciplined, daily effort. The myth is that you need some massive, heroic burst of energy to change your life. The reality is the classic tortoise and the hare scenario. Slow, steady, daily consistency always wins out in the end. To maintain that consistency, we have to talk about section 3, discipline beats motivation. This takes aim at the biggest excuse out there, waiting to feel motivated. What is discipline? It means doing what needs to be done, even when you absolutely do not feel like doing it. Motivation is completely temporary and super unreliable. Some days you're energized, sure. Other days you're stressed out, or it's cold and pouring rain outside, and your bed is just incredibly warm. If you only take action when you feel inspired, you're going to be stuck for years. Discipline is the core trait separating the successful from the unsuccessful, precisely because it carries you through those difficult low-energy days.
Let's flip everything we've been taught upside down. You wake up feeling resistance, feeling lazy. But you take a small action anyway. You put on your gym shoes. You open the laptop. As you begin moving, momentum slowly grows, and suddenly, motivation kicks in. The source material emphasizes this heavily. Motivation is a result of taking action. It's not a prerequisite you have to wait around for. You don't wait for energy to start. Starting is exactly what creates the energy. Feelings are temporary, but daily actions shape your life permanently. I absolutely love this quote. It is such a great reminder to just stop negotiating with your feelings. If you let your life be controlled by emotional ups and downs, your progress is going to be completely erratic, and your goals will stay entirely stagnant. Disciplined people follow their systems regardless of how they happen to feel when they open their eyes that morning. But getting to that point requires facing Section 4, the price of success. We're talking about the unglamorous necessity that most folks try to avoid, the reality of delayed gratification. There is a harsh trade-off we make every single day. We can choose temporary comfort, sleeping in, mindless scrolling on social media, avoiding the hard stuff, and it feels really good right now in the moment. But the future reality of those comfortable choices? Stagnation, a severe lack of growth, and eventually painful regret. You simply cannot build an extraordinary life while clinging to ordinary, comfortable habits all the time. Every single successful person has had to sacrifice something. So we need to completely reframe how we look at this. Sacrifice is an investment in your future self. It is not a punishment. When you give up short-term comfort, like, say, choosing to study instead of binge-watching a new show, you aren't losing something. You are making an empowering, proactive choice to build a stronger future. It's a trade, and it's a trade you're making to benefit yourself down the line. If you're willing to make that investment, there's really only one thing left to do. Section 5, start before you're ready. Let's dismantle the last major mental barrier our sourcey analyzes, the paralyzing fear of starting. There is a massive myth surrounding confidence. The myth is that you somehow must wait to feel confident before you can act. The reality? Taking action is exactly what builds your confidence. Self-belief isn't just magically granted to you before you begin. It's earned through repeated, imperfect action. Look, the first time you do anything, you're going to be nervous, and you're probably going to be bad at it. But every small action teaches your brain, hey, I can do this. I am improving. So how do you actually make the shift from being a dreamer to a doer today? You start imperfectly. You start afraid. You start small. You focus entirely on progress over perfection, and you keep moving during the hard days. You do not need a perfect plan, and you certainly don't need perfect timing. You just need to be willing to take that very first step, even if it's a little messy. Wow, we've covered a ton of incredible ground today, and it all boils down to the single provocative question. Your future is being created by what you do daily. So what will you choose today? The source material makes it incredibly clear. Nobody is coming to do the work for you. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't bridged by thinking about it. It's bridged by whatever real-world action you choose to take right now, today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it sparked some motivation to take that next small step, and I'll catch you next time.